Hello and welcome everyone to the grand finals of the International Wildcard Invitation live from Mexico. Not us though, we're hanging out in Sydney ready to bring you the English coverage of it all. My name is Julian Pastry Time Car and it's been such a wonderful tournament so far. But today, the last slot for the mid-season invitational and the Kings of Wildcard here for the middle of the year will be decided. Joining me once again on the analyst desk, they've been great all week. Please give them a warm hand. It is Tim, Carvin, Wendell and Lucio, Soul Strikes Park boys. It's been great to have you here all week. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm going well. It has been a good week, a lot of exciting games. Really looking forward to today's matchup. I think they're two extremely talented wildcard teams, and I'm really excited to see who gets that MS5 spot.
Yeah, very excited to see these two top two teams from the wildcard. Very strong meta champion, meta-focused team, so going to be very exciting.
Certainly should be very competitive. But let's have a look at kind of how they got there to start things off. Remember, there was a round robin in the first few days that we checked out here. Let's have a look at the standings from the end of it to see where they finished. As you can see, Supermassive, Hard Random, and INTZ all finished at 5-2. But honestly, pretty much the top two teams as the tiebreakers finished towards the end of day 4 there. And these two teams look wonderful. Hard Random in particular never looked like they were slowing down in the group stage.
They had an amazing group stage. They didn't drop a game for, I think, the first 2 days, only losing on the third day to Supermassive. Yeah. So Hard Random had an amazing start of the tournament, very impressive. Supermassive, on the other hand, they were kind of went under the radar a little bit, you know, like we weren't talking about them so much, but they were still winning games.
Yeah, and they got stronger every day went by. So very exciting to see them in the finals once again. So going to be very good games.
Can certainly agree that they have gotten stronger as things have continued. And let's have a look at the semi-finals just to illustrate how strong they have looked. As you can see there, Hard Random swept INTZ as the Brazilians, honestly the favorites coming into the tournament, were knocked out there in the top 4. And then Supermassive demolished Saigon Jokers in another sweep. Like, I know the scorelines are similar there. In fact, they're the same there for those two matchups. But the series were, even though one-sided, very different. And Supermassive looked the best in that particular semi-final.
Definitely. I think while Hard Random 3-0'd Ints, it was not nearly as dominating as the Supermassive Saigon Jokers game. Supermassive just completely outclassed their opponents.
Yeah, and they actually showed like 3 different composition and showed variety picks and bands and just adapted really well in the best of 5 series.
And it definitely feels like the teams have gotten stronger, but of course, two teams do have to play each other, so let's have a look at the actual matchup now, because it will of course be Supermassive versus Hard Random to round things out for the grand finals. Honestly, two teams that we looked at and said, you know what? They're actually pretty similar.
Yeah, look, a lot of the same kind of champ pools, a similar sort of play style. I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup because I think the winner here will just be the team who has more raw ability. You know, yesterday with Saigon Jokers, we were saying that their play style is quite different to every other team's. Yeah. Well, basically every other team at the tournament, but particularly Supermassive. And so there was a bit of a play style clash there. However, in this game, play style is relatively similar. Hard Random do like to split push a bit more. They do pick the Trundle top, second most played top laner, whereas Supermassive are more likely to just pick Maokai and do the TP flank, but I think generally, in everywhere but the top lane, it's pretty similar, and so I think definitely the better team should win today.
Yeah, and it will be very hard. It'll be very hard to see like one team just dominating through macro-wise play. So I'll be expecting like very intense micro game.
Yeah, and we've seen lots of intense team fighting from both these sides, to be honest. But let's actually have a look at effectively our feature matchup, despite the fact that both teams are studded with stars. And it may surprise you, but if you've been watching the tournament or following it at all, it certainly doesn't surprise us. For maybe the first time in League of Legends history for a grand final, we're actually looking at the supports first up. Licorice versus Dumbledore might actually be the best matchup of this particular series.
Absolutely. Licorice and Dumbledore are both the respective playmakers for their teams. They've both had amazing tournaments. We're consistently impressed by their performances. And what we were saying is kind of like, oh, you know, Kira versus Naru, it's a big matchup. The junglers have both played very good this tournament, but really, it all starts with, for both teams, it all starts with the support roam. And we're expecting every other lane, essentially, to be influenced by these two guys.
Yeah, definitely. And if we do manage to see the lane swap, there's definitely going to be some bloodbath at the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, have we seen some differences, though? Because they are similar players. They like to play make. They do like to roam. But are there things that maybe that we can look at and say, okay, this is why they're different? Because statistically, the players are pretty much identical. They're both looking good. They've looked good all tournament. They both playmakers. Like, what are we looking at? Is it champ pools? Is it just small style things here? What really separates these two players? Because they're not exactly the same despite being similar.
No, of course not. And there are some differences. Dumbledore obviously prioritizing the Poppy very highly. Poppy's really punishing for players who miss position. Generally hard to kill, very good in the jungle roams. So Dumbledore's preferring that Poppy, and that's because he's more of a jungle roam sort of player. You see supports who roam from mid lane and then back to bot, or who will base and go top lane and then base and go back bot. But Dumbledore's his preferred style is to go into the bot lane or into the top lane, whichever lane the duo goes to, but then he'll spend most of his time rotating into the jungle for deep wards with their jungler stone-aged, looking for picks, and then after he's secured the jungle, that's when he tends to look mid.
Yeah, and he buys crazy item like Hex Drinker later on to the game, which is unheard of from support role.
Yeah, I saw him almost 1v1 if he was actually in the tournament, which was quite impressive, but couldn't quite kill the top laner in that particular set against the Saigon Jokers. Liquid, though, definitely a different sort of player, and we feel like it's honestly his AD carry that he's maybe having to hold his hands a bit more of. Achu's been impressive, but before we get to talk about him, Liquid, man, every champion he touches turns to gold. He's played a few more different champions than Dumbledore has, but the man's an absolute playmaker, especially when it comes to team fighting.
Yeah, Liquid definitely has a pretty deep champion pool in the support role. Has had amazing games on Bard, but what I really like is the Tahm Kench. I mean, he played Tahm Kench basically before we saw anybody else playing Tahm Kench. He's played it to great success. Hasn't dropped a game on it yet. He's played 3 games, 3 victories. We saw Tahm Kench last night in
LCK.
In LCK, so I think Liquid may have been a little bit ahead of the meta with that pick. His Bard obviously is phenomenal. I think the big difference between Liquid and Dumbledore is that Liquid has to stay in lane a bit more. I think he's, I don't want to say held back, but he is definitely, Miracle requires him to babysit a little bit. And so I'm expecting him to sit in lane a little bit longer than Dumbledore. And if that happens, because Achu is such a great single AD carry, self-sustaining AD carry, I think that Supermassive might actually, that might give them an opportunity to punish.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Dumbledore kind of likes the champion pool. Like, he did show he could play the Thresh and the Elise support. I'm not quite sure about that, but they're both amazing Bard player, but I'm expecting a Bard ban, so it'll be very interesting what other cards Dumbledore can bring other than Poppy.
Well, always to see Bardo taken away. He's been probably one of the most fun champions to track all IWCI. Let's actually have a look at maybe the matchup you expected us to start with, though, and it is, of course, mid lane. Both these players, Naru and Kira, have actually had very good presence in the international stage. Naru, if Supermassive as a team have been the team that's powered up throughout the tournament, I feel like it is Naru leading that charge, because he's always been good. But he honestly had a shaky start to this tournament, and his last 3 games looked absolutely absurd.
Well, it's kind of the story of Turkey, to be honest.
Yeah.
At most of these events, Turkey usually has a kind of shaky first day. I mean, it's not usually too long because generally they do quite well at these tournaments, but usually a shaky first day, or at least the first couple games, and then they get stronger and stronger and stronger. And I think Naru is kind of the catalyst to that. He needs a little bit of time to warm up, but once he does warm up, he's usually one of the better mid laners at the tournament. I think he's had a good tournament so far. We did mention in the Saigon Jokers game that his KD wasn't amazing, but he does have a lot of damage.
Yeah, and his LeBlanc he played it 4 times and has 100% win rate. So it's pretty insane how he can just make this assassin work.
On that note, I do want to mention that Naru's champion pool is quite low. So far, we've only seen LeBlanc, Azir, and Lissandra. They make up the lion's share of his champs. Other than that, we saw the Karma one time, which
Lulu
they lost
on,
right? Which wasn't great.
Yeah,
and they played Lulu in the last game against Saigon Jokers. I'm not convinced that they'll play Lulu today. I think they kind of just picked it because they knew they were going to win and thought, oh, well, we can kind of show that we have more picks than just the top 3, LeBlanc, Azir, and Lissandra, but I'm not convinced that they have more picks than those 3. I mean, I'm sure he can play more champs, but I think those are definitely the 3 champs that Supermassive are looking to prioritize.
Yeah, and definitely. And there's a lot. The Lissandra pick especially is a clash between them. They actually both have 100% win rate from both teams, so it'll be very interesting where the Lissandra goes. Because when Naru got the Lissandra from Saigon Jokers, it was just unbelievably strong.
Well, I think it's a good thing to talk about as far as, you mentioned champion pools on one side. Let's talk about Kira, because he has had sort of I would say, similar champion pool demonstrations here at this tournament. He's kind of shown off a lot of the same things, but I'm not sure he's maybe as narrow as a player potentially.
No way. I mean, Kira's played Lysandra and Azir a lot as well to relative success. So there's definitely a little bit of clash in the priority there. But obviously for Kira, the big one is Nivea. Kira's an amazing Nivea player. He makes it look so good. Makes it look OP, to be honest. I mean, it's not meta at all, but every time he gets it, he just seems to do so well. And so that'll be a huge strategic decision that Supermassive will have to make. What are they going to do about the Nivea? Can they deal with it? Like I said, it's not a meta pick, so it's not like it's actually OP. It's just he's just so good at it. And what do? Do you take it away, or do you just trust in Naru to be able to handle this pick? I think the other thing is the depth of pool. I mean, Hard Random Kira has played so many different champs. He's played Gangplank, he's played Vladimir, he's played Ryze, and the LeBlanc. So I mean, there's a much deeper pool, at least in the sense that he's willing to play them on stage. I'm sure Naru can play all these champions, but he's choosing not to. So I think that's one big difference.
Yeah, and to reinforce what Carbon said, the Ryze pick especially catches my eye because it got banned all 3 games from so it will be very interesting to see if they want to leave both the Nivea and the Ryze up. So yeah, just would you ban it or would you just leave it open?
Well, I find it interesting is that they banned Ryze 3 times without ever having seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if these guys are scrimming each other, and this Ryze is just amazing, and we're not going to see it at all. But I think it's more likely that Supermassive won't ban Ryze. We'll see one Ryze game, and then we'll find out whether or not it was worth banning.
I mean, that's the thing. Ryze is actually a champion, kind of while we're on this train of thought, that we expected to maybe be a little bit bigger in this tournament and actually hasn't had that much of an impact. We saw scattered bans here and there in the round robin, and then teams weren't really picking it up. I'm sad to say one of the teams that was playing a lot was the Chiefs, and they weren't winning too much on the pick.
No, so maybe everybody else got scared.
Maybe, but I know it's a pick you expected to see a lot of, Sol, but we haven't seen too much of. If Kira can show up on the pick, I assume that's a massive threat for this particular tournament.
Yeah, and definitely. And to amplify the Ryze pick, A Miracle actually does play the Sivir, and the both Sivir Ryze comp is just really strong. And SKT showed that Ryze Sivir, the movement speed is just insane, and once you get room present, there's no way getting out of it.
You are donezo. Well, we're going to keep moving through and chatting about the matchup because there's still plenty to look at. We're actually going to go to the jungle now, but we're not going to start with the actual junglers themselves. Let's start with the jungle picks that we expect to see, Carvin. You're already on it.
I mean, yeah, so the big one is Graves, obviously. Graves is going to be huge contested pick this game. Stomaged has played, he played Graves in the semis. Before that, he had played 5 in the group stage. Hard Random have played 7 games of Graves. I mean, both these junglers are playing Graves every time they get up. Graves is just so strong. He scales well. He's tanky. He team fights well. Even has early gank pressure. If the lane has CC, we've seen Graves, Lysandra how many times now? I mean, even at level 4, all this has to do is claw in and hit the root, and Graves can one-shot the mid laner. So I think Graves is definitely the strongest jungler right now. Definitely in this tournament, the strongest jungler, most successful jungler. But for me, the big difference between these two junglers is the second pick. So PvP Sejos has played Graves almost every game. He's played Elise and Gragas, Kindred 1 game each, and then he's played the Nidalee twice. So his second most popular or second favorite pick, what they prioritize after Graves, is the Nidalee, and they actually haven't won a game on it yet. I mean, his Elise was quite good yesterday. He won both sides of the Elise-Graves matchup, which is always very impressive as a jungler to do. But I am a little bit worried because on the other side, Stomaged, has 4 Kindred games for 3 victories, and his Kindred looks very good. So while the Graves might go off the table, we know for a fact that Stomaged has a great second pick that he's likely to be successful on. However, it remains to be seen whether or not Hard Random have that second pick.
Yeah, and I feel like Kindred pick especially suits Stomaged playstyle a lot more because he's more of a gank-heavy jungler, whereas Stejos, he's more of a farm jungler. So maybe he doesn't prefer the Kindred because he just doesn't want to gank.
I think they're both kind of farm junglers. I think that Stomaged is more likely to go to the lane. We've definitely seen from Stejos that he just prefers to just power farm to 6 and then kill you with the level 6 to level 4 advantage and just collateral damage your face off.
Yeah.
But look, I don't know. I'm kind of expecting both these guys to farm, and then Stomaged kind of, when Dumbledore roams, that's when Stomaged roams. So I'm expecting those two to be together, and if not, I expect him to be jungling.
Yeah, then it all really comes down to the support to do the jungle job.
Yeah, it's very funny matchup.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like these guys like to play more of the meta farm heavy junglers, your Kindred, your Graves, and your Nidalee every now and then. But it feels like they do still bring CC to these ganks, and it is because their support players tend to be roaming with them. What do we think of that 2v2 matchup? Because we've seen a lot of mid pressure from Supermassive when they like to roam together. In fact, Stomage will every now and then just gank mid like a normal jungler and get Naru ahead because he loves to snowball a lane. Whereas I feel like Steos is, his lanes he expects him to win or at least play safe. Liquid's there if he needs someone to really get aggressive with, but he does like to solo invade and just apply pressure. It feels like the pace of maybe the games these two teams are playing are actually quite different. Supermassive, we've seen when they win especially, they're quite an aggressive momentum-based team.
Definitely. Supermassive, I think, have first blood in 9 of their 11 games, and their bot lane is way overrepresented. I think they have like 5 of the first bloods. But the interesting thing about that is that 4 of them are mid. Right, so you expect, the bot lane has 5 first bloods, so the bot lane's clearly doing 2v2s. They're clearly playing very well, but no, actually, Dumbledore is roaming mid. He's gotten first blood mid 4 times. So don't expect the level 3 gank from the jungler. Expect a level 3 gank from Dumbledore. And I think that's what's so interesting about this matchup today is that really both the supports love to roam mid. Both the junglers kind of prefer to farm. So what I think is going to happen is these supports are going to come mid. The junglers will come mid in response, and we're going to end up with 3v3s mid as opposed to 2v2s. Ultimately, the consequences will be borne by the mid laners. I mean, one of those two is going to die, and one of those two is going to pick up the kills, and they're going to get ahead. And the mid lane is probably the one that's going to decide this game, but the mid lane is not the one that's going to be making the play, and neither is the jungler. I think it's going to be both supports roam mid, both jungles decide, hey, this is a good idea too, and all of a sudden we got 3-on-3.
Yeah, going to be very interesting to see who actually comes ahead. Maybe the big pick will be the Bard because he does. If he gets the double stun during the 3v3 fight, it's just going to be massive.
Well, I was going to say, like, my most memorable roam from Supermassive has actually been a Dumbledore Stomaged Kindred Bard roam that was just pillar through, magical journey through the big rock there in mid lane and actually getting for Naru, who did manage to snowball off it. Like, these guys aren't messing around when it comes to jungle invades. Even Liquid will hold Steos' hand and just whack people with meeps. Like,
yeah, they I don't know. It's really.
I mean,
weird.
at least it's actually a jungle pick, right? Like,
at least it's actually a jungle pick. I mean, especially Dumbledore. Liquid does spend a little bit more time in lane, but especially Dumbledore. Like, I feel like it's just got to the point where you may as well just take Smite. I mean, you're constantly in their jungle. Just take Smite, get the Wolf Camp, get that vision, maybe steal a blue buff level 2 with the lane swap. I saw him try to do that too. So look, no, the sports are very interesting. But we are supposed to be talking about the junglers, the most important role in League of Legends.
I see.
And,
it's almost like I have 2 junglers on the analyst desk.
But yeah, look, I think Supermassive absolutely just cannot give him the Graves. He's somehow gotten Graves every time. People seem to think that he's not good at it, or that he doesn't like playing it, or maybe it's like, he's played it so many times, like surely he'll get bored. Like surely if we just let him keep playing it, eventually he'll get bored and he'll say, no team, I refuse to play Graves anymore. But that's just simply not the case. If you leave Graves up, this guy will pick it and he will beat you with it.
Yeah, and he just first pick it and just does so much damage on it. Just power farm it, then random kills off from it.
I mean, I've seen him collateral damage way too many people. Just hit level 6, he's got both your buffs, hit level 6, and he just walks top lane, and you're like, oh, this will be an interesting fight. And it's like, wait a minute, no, the other guy's still level 4. He's just like, doof.
And the guy's done so.
And he's finished.
Which is pretty much what we've seen. Let's talk a bit about styles, though, because I think it is interesting how these teams like to play. Supermassive, very clean, very straightforward, very objective-focused gameplay. Hard Random have shown some of that here and there, but they are maybe the most aggressive team in the sense that they love to team fight. And I have seen Hard Random do silly things that I don't expect to work that then somehow work. These guys have fallen behind. They did fall behind in some of their semifinals, but every time they're like, we will make a play, get the teleports in there from the top, from the mid lane, move the junglers in, move the supports in, and just start something. And I'm going to say 80+% of the time, even if their call was incorrect, their execution is absolutely superb and they somehow pull it out.
I think there's 2 really good things that Hard Random do as a team, and I think the first one is I don't know who their shot caller, I don't know how their shot calling works, but whatever it is, they absolutely trust the call. Like you said, sometimes we look at it and we're like, oh, this doesn't look like a good idea, but then because they all are so intent on making this play that they'll just make it work, that they'll just execute somehow on what was a bad idea because they all trust so blindly in whatever the call was. was. So that's a huge strength. I mean, it can hurt you because sometimes it really is just a bad idea, and they definitely have dropped. Well, they dropped 2 games in the round robin, and they dropped the tiebreaker to Supermassive on the last day as well. So, look, I think that's a huge strength of theirs following the call. I think the second thing is I've forgotten the second thing, which is unfortunate, but maybe Lucio's got something more interesting to say.
Yeah, just the most memorable part about the hard random was when the Twisted Fate came bottom, he pulled out the red card and they instantly punished him. Everyone just got
in there?
five member got to bot lane. There were TPs. There were just bot Fiesta. Then there were just and after that there was just a complete ace. Then Brazil had just no way of coming back.
Yeah, I think the other thing is how well they team fight.
Yep.
Is their calls are good, their execution is generally good, even if it's a bad idea. But I think that's because their team fighting is just so good. As soon as they get into a 5v5, they're hitting all their spells. They're doing they're min-maxing their damage.
Yep.
They just play the team fights on a higher level than most of these other teams. I think the only team that I would probably say is close in the team fighting, which is coincidental, is Supermassive.
Yes. And again, they have looked like the 2 strongest teams. It makes sense that they're here in the semis, in the finals, excuse me. Whoa, definitely already finished the semis. Have we noticed that maybe Supermassive are playing a bit different? Because when I watch them play, it feels more objective focused. It's not that they don't want to fight you, but they're very much a lane into Dragon, into Baron, into win the game sort of team.
Yeah.
Whereas Hard Random kind of prefer to farm their lanes out and then beat you in the mid game.
Yeah, so Hard Random are very big on that team fight. They're very big on finding that team fight because they're so good in it, and then just beating you and then taking Baron, right? But Supermassive, on the other hand, what I really liked from their semi-final was they kind of present opportunities to you. Like you said, they'll set up for the Dragon, or they'll set up a slow push in the bot lane, and then they'll sit with 2 in the bot lane. And so the other team will be like, okay, well, there's 2 bots, so we should try and find this fight mid. But the 3 mid are just so careful. They're just so ready for it. And if you aren't able to catch them, if they manage to disengage, then they punish you so hard for that. And I thought we saw that time and time again versus C, where they would kind of hang the 3 out as bait, and then they would immediately just disengage, and there would be 5 mid with wasted flashes, wasted TPs, wasted ults, and then with 2 man, they would go push the other lane while the 3 rotate. So I think that they're a very strong punish team. If you make a mistake, they will punish you. However, and we saw it again against C and in their losses, that if you are able to catch the 3, if you are able to punish them when they put out the bait, they can get rinsed really quickly. All of a sudden, they drop 3 members. And that's how they lost versus Brazil.
Yep.
And I think that's something that we need to look out for today, is that Hard Random are really good at all committing on one call, and Supermassive are very good at hanging out the bait.
Yeah, personally, I think we just need to watch out for the mid lane, Naru. Once he gets the LeBlanc, once he gets like those assassin kind of champs, once the mid lane's just open, he just unlocks his whole team. He just goes around killing people, get objectives, then get his teams rolling.
Well, it makes sense. He is the shot caller for the team. Like, he's definitely a player that's had a better and better tournament as things have sort of rolled on. But how important is it for Naru to get ahead in this particular game? Because Kira, I will say, is very good at neutralizing or diffusing lanes. He plays a lot of control mid. He's an Eevee main, for God's sakes. Like, This man just wants to farm up and make plays with his TP. He's used the spell very effectively. Does Naru have to get ahead in this matchup to give Supermassive the best chance, or are there other avenues of attack here?
I think he doesn't necessarily have to get ahead. He has to be even. He has to have enough damage to kill an AD carry, basically.
Yep.
I don't think I think Miracle is not the strongest player. I think generally it's generally good. Sorry, I don't mean it in that way, but I think he's on this lineup, probably the weak link on Hard Random, and I think Nara will be looking to punish him a lot throughout the game. Look, it is important that he gets ahead, but like you said, Kira is just so good at neutralizing the lane. I mean, we saw what game was it? And he was playing Anivia into LeBlanc.
Yeah.
LeBlanc roams bot for the double kill, gets a double buff, comes back to lane, and loses lane. Just gets pushed out. Anivia hasn't backed. He hasn't backed, but he has double buffs. He's got experience boost from the kills. Comes back, and Kira's just like, nah, mate. Like, that's not how this works. I don't care how many times you leave. As soon as you come back, I'm going to beat you again. So, look, I think Naru getting ahead is important, of course, but it's going to be so difficult to do against Kira.
Yeah, definitely. And Kira he just have these picks that kind of neutralize the lane, like Anivia, Lissandra,
Vladimir.
Azir, and Vladimir
Yeah.
in some extent, and the Rise maybe we'll see tonight. So it'll be very interesting, the mid lane especially, and with the help of the support especially, we talked and touched on earlier. Just going to be very interesting to see how this pans out.
I think it's funny in general, just the way stylistically these players match up. Because, like, Nara has played Azir, right? He's a good Azir player, but he's just so ham. Like, he goes in on every single play. He, like, treats Azir basically as another assassin that he's playing, whereas Kira is much more of a reserve player. Like, Nara has gotten himself into trouble this event from going a little too aggressive. And
Absolutely.
I know I think the shot caller of the team, he's the captain, I believe, as well. Like, if... It's not surprising when your mid laner starts losing for Supermassive that things go wrong, because you kind of alluded to it earlier. When Supermassive start losing, it spirals down quickly.
Yeah, they kind of don't bleed very well. You know, as soon as they get behind, it's not like, oh, we'll give up this and then we'll try trade for something else. Or they just look for that team fight. They're like, okay, well, we're down. Like, how do we win this game? I don't know. Like, let's sit in the bush. Or like, okay, well, let's just like TP on bot to see what happens. And when you're behind, you know, that can get you back into a game, but it's very high risk. Like medium reward, you know, and so when they do get behind, we see them blow out quite quick, but lucky for them, they don't get behind very often.
No.
Yeah, and definitely when the only time Naru got behind as Azir was against the Pokemon, I believe, the Varus. And the game just finished really quickly. Naru just didn't know what to do. He tried to do the Shurima shuffle stuff, but he just got blown up instantly.
Yeah, it certainly looks like maybe problematic there. As we are going to take a look at another matchup here, and you guys have kind of talked about it already, but let's actually talk about the AD carries now. We know the supports are the stars of their lanes, and we do expect them to show up big here in this particular matchup, but, you know, AD carries still need to do something. It's funny, these ADs are more like the supports of their particular lane, given how the Doge and Liquid like to play. But there actually is potential for a 1v1 here, because the supports are likely going to leave. I think they've both looked good at different points, but you kind of already started on the train, Carvin. Miracle does seem a little bit outclassed. But
yeah, look, I think this is a low-key featured matchup.
Yeah, sure.
We're not going to talk about it that much, and they're probably not going to do anything that flashy or seem like they're having that big an impact on the game, but Chu has had an excellent tournament. We haven't been talking about him much. I think we even said at one point that he seemed a bit underwhelming, but like his stats are out of this world. 30% damage of his team is huge for a player who gets very low gold. He's constantly left in the 2v1 lane. He's just an absolute workhorse. He has a ton of damage per minute, especially compared to Miracle. Miracle's damage per minute was significantly lower than that of Achu. I think that Miracle needs his hand to be held a little bit. He needs to get through that lane phase. He needs to get some items to be able to do damage. Whereas Achu, I mean, they could just pick him Ezreal. They can pick him really whatever they want, and Dumbledoge will never be in lane, and somehow this guy will still carry.
Yeah, and Ezreal's probably the best pick to leave your ADC line, because all Ezreal needs is time, and once he gets the Muramana plus Iceborne, that's when Ezreal shines. And both of these AD carries actually prefers to play the Lucian.
Yep.
Both players played 7 games for a Miracle and 6 games on Achu. So it'll be a very contested pick, because Lucian, once again, very strong pick.
How good do we think Lucian's been, actually? Because he was almost I'm not going to say a surprise of the tournament, but we did see maybe more than we expected. Sivir, to be fair, is banned a lot, and even Callista, who is quite popular in the tournament, did see a couple bans there as well, particularly on the first 2 days. I feel like Lucian is just a pick, though, that every AD carry here at the tournament's defaulted to, and every time I say it, I'm like, this champion's fairly good.
Yeah, it's strange because, like you said at the start of the tournament, we kind of thought Lucian probably won't get played that much. He is good, but he was kind of just like the AD you pick when you don't know what to pick kind of thing. You know, when Sivir is up, it's take Sivir, and Callista saw some success at the start as well, especially with like Callista Ali, for instance. So we didn't have our eyes on Lucian, but the more he gets played, the more convinced I am that he's really good in this meta. He's super mobile. He has the movement speed. You can build lifesteal on him if you need to. He's got the CDR with Essence Reaver. For more dashes, and what that all means is that he's very good into tanks. You know, when a Maokai roots a Lucian, it's Maokai would be able to 1v1 a Sivir, for instance, is able to 1v1 a Callista because she's so short range. But Lucian can dash, and then dash again, and then dash again. And then when Maokai retreats, he gets cold. So I think Lucian's really, really good because in the tank meta, he has survivability and he has mobility, whereas the other ADs tend to just die.
Yeah, and to reinforce what Carbon said, Lucian tends to go Essence Reaver, Rapid Fire Cannon, then into like QSS, Schemata. Then he can afford to go like more Malmortius for more defensive. So the itemize just really suits him.
I have to say as well, you did mention top lane. Let's go there because it did. As you were kind of talking about the low-key feature matchup, my eyes did actually flash towards top lane. It does feel like we have 2 top lanes in this game and one very big mid lane that everyone's interested in getting involved with. But again, Smurf and Thaldron have both looked good. Fabulous has played, but I'm not sure he's looked as good as Thaldron has. I am expecting Thaldron to play most, if not all, of the series here. And again, these top laners are almost always quite underachievers. I don't really want to talk about Echo because I don't expect to see him at all in the series. But what have we thought of Smurf versus Thaldron?
Yeah, firstly, no, I don't think Fab's going to get a game today, which is unfortunate because we all like Fab. But
it's good fun.
But Thaldron has had a great tournament, whereas Fab's 2 games were quite weak. Look, the top laners are very similar in pretty much all respects, except kind of like PvP Stayhos's Graves. People keep leaving Echo up for Thaldron. Thaldron is clearly a very good Echo player. Echo is utterly broken. I mean, if you get Echo, you should win, and if you don't win with Echo, you should reconsider your career. I think. The second part, though, that I think is interesting with Hard Random is that Trundle is a big pick for Hard Random. They love playing Trundle top lane. They're a little bit more inclined to split push a little bit harder with the Trundle, whereas Supermassive will first pick Maokai every time it's up, unless Echo is up. They prioritize Maokai over everything. They love getting that TP flank like we were talking about. So I could see the draft going something like a Maokai first pick, but then Hard Random looking for that Trundle counter.
Yeah, and we could see the Trundle ban or the Maokai ban, and we'll have to see like there's such a small pool of top laner pool, so it'll be very interesting to see how the top laner pool pans out because Echo's definitely going to get banned, and perhaps Maokai and Trundle's going to get banned, so it'll be very interesting to see. And the Poppy, Thaldron does play, and he has won all his game with it, but yeah, I just think Poppy's just going to be the next thing.
I think one other thing to consider, though, is that Hard Random have also played the Poppy. They did lose on it, but the fact that he can play it, I think, is quite important because taking Poppy away from Dumbledore, I think, could be a really big power play in the draft. And if Smurf can play it, I mean, they know that they're going to be playing against a Maokai or something of that ilk, so it's unlikely that Poppy's going to get like a huge counter or anything like that. She should be fine in lane. So I think that could be a pretty big move for Hard Random to consider.
Yeah, maybe we could see the elite support from the Dumbledore.
Well, that's usually the string after Poppy support for whatever reason. I have to say, while we're on top lane champions and maybe just champions in the tournament and that we expect in the series in general, Nautilus has been notably absent from the tournament. Like, Echo is a big priority, but again, we don't expect him to get through. We have seen a lot of Maokai, but the responses tend to be, I want a bruiser and I don't want another tank, because no one really wants to, have a farm off, I guess.
No, look, for me, Maokai is just objectively better than Nautilus. He always has been. Even when Nautilus was meta, I thought Maokai was better. I mean, what's the strength of Nautilus is that he has the hook and he has the ult, right? Ult is a targeted ability. You will always knock someone up. The thing about Maokai is Maokai also has a targeted ability, except his is his W, and it's up like every 6 seconds. Oh, wow, actually, we are in the draft.
Whoa!
Okay.
And we're done. All right, let's recap. Anivia Rise and Trundle will want Kindred Echo. They're the bans for Supermassive and Hard Random. Team Comps, let's go.
How did he get Graves again?
And someone has
I
Bard.
don't get it. Why do these people? Do they just not watch anyone else's games? They just play their games and go straight to bed, have a Mexican siesta. I mean, he's played so many games and he's so good at it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing that he got the Graves again, and looks like Kira got his Lysandra as well, and they actually took away the Poppy.
What I also like there is Dumbledore's managed to get his hands on the Bard. So Liquid's on the alley, Dumbledore's on the Bard. Let's see who wins the first Bard game and whether or not that will be a super contested pick.
Well, the support battle's always one to watch, but let's get in the game because the draft is done. We're going to throw it over to the casting desk.
Cheers, guys. Great analysing on the day. I'm Pulse, this is Frosco, and this is Rusty, and that kind of took me by surprise. We got through all of our champion select. I think between us, we saw most of those champions, but something to point out is the Graves being picked up again, as Carmen was saying. How does he keep getting it? I don't understand.
I honestly, like, Carbon sums it up best. I think that Graves is the best jungler in this current tournament, in this current meta, in the way that everything has progressed. So between all of these teams, there should be this consensus that Graves should not be available to them yet. time and again, he's always there.
Yeah, time and again, he just goes top lane and boof with the collateral damage, and it's just GG. But yeah, both of these teams coming into this one are going to be very entertaining. I think the TLDR is the supports are going to be the big playmakers on these teams, and then really mid lane is going to be like the civilian casualties just caught up in the crossfires. They just roam mid randomly at like 5 minutes in and start fighting. So should be a very interesting game to watch.
I mean, Carbon said it himself that this tournament was really defined by the jungler and the support duo, and like you said, mid lane just kind of happens to be that cross point where they continuously crash. And it's weird because usually when you think about the duo lane, it's the mid and the jungler going 2v2, but with such a potent and powerful jungler like Graves in comparison to Gragas, I'm going to give huge weight points to hard randoms here, and Stayhost in particular.
All right, guys, we are into game Supermassive up against Hard Random. First game in this best of 5. There is an MSI spot on the line, and both these teams are going to be fighting tooth and nail over this one as we get into the series.
Listen to that crowd.
Going ham.
I think the other big thing to talk about here is the fact that Dumbledore is the recipient of the Bard. And I think a lot of priority generally goes on Alistar, but between both of these supports, it seems to always be Brad.
And the big thing also is kind of that 2v2 when we break down Sivir Alistar versus the likes of Lucian and Bard. It does look like a lane swap may be initiated here by Supermassive. But if that ever comes to a 2v2, Lucian and Bard are just so punishing, especially against the Alistar 1 through 3.
That's why I'm surprised they're looking for a lane swap. Realistically, I think they're looking to match the lane swap, but there's no deep enough vision to see it, in which case they might bait and switch themselves into the situation they don't want.
And now it's really a question of, do they quickly then force the wave into the tower and then try to reset for standard lanes to find the 2v2 to keep Miracle and Licorice down? Or is Licorice going to get unlocked and match Dumbledore on their own?
That's almost what I feel is going to happen in this series, because when we've seen both these teams in lane swap scenarios, usually Liquid and Dumbledore are the ones just simply leaving lane. It's just like, I'm just going to leave the AD carry and look for those roams very early on into the game. But
speaking of,
at the moment,
not the
Dumbledore's
chicken.
coming in. No, the chicken is down, has been smited away. And Sajos going into his bottom jungle now. Kira being pushed in the mid lane. We honestly don't expect a lot of kills, a lot of action pre-6 really between Kira and Naru. And as I say that, they start trading at level 1 because why not?
Should be noted that Lissandra and Graves are on the same team. I've said this before earlier in the tournament, but Graves is one of the few jungle champions that during the duration of a Frozen Tomb can come in and immediately 100-0 someone with his burst damage. So watch for that and how Stayhost gets involved with Kiro at that level 6 point.
Yeah, very similar to how the Lee Sin Lissandra combo was like a couple months back when we saw that. Now Graves is filled in, has even more damage, and now Faldron is just, well, he's waddling up to top lane, and now he's there. Got that Maokai once again. Had really good performances so far in the tournament on the Maokai pick. Smurf, generally in other wildcard tournaments, I haven't been super impressed by Smurf, but I think he's done pretty well so far in this one.
He found his stride quite well once Maokai started becoming a prevalent pick as well, but then they gave him the echo one time saying, surely he can't play this as well. And I've never seen someone style on an entire team as effectively as Smurf did then. So it feels to me like he's a momentum-based player, and they've now given him momentum, and we're starting to see him really come into his stride.
Big question here, of course, is these lane swaps kind of continue and the first towers are falling. All of the experience and gold will go to Thaldron here as the first tower will fall. He's looking for a good bounce. Looks like he's going to get a very decent one on the other side. It's being matched by Smurf. So now it's a question of where do these two duo lanes end up, and is it going to be a gentleman's agreement to just open up these side lanes?
Yeah, really, I don't think we're going to see a lot of tempo built from that from either team, but Sajos is taking away this red buff rather, and I do want to look at the composition generally because we didn't really get the time in champion select, so we've spoken about some of the lanes, but what are the objectives for the teams? We have this massive front line coming in from Supermassive, and then Achu, he's just on the Lucian.
I want to get to that, but I'm curious what Stayhost is doing over here. No, he's going to back up.
He's out.
So on Supermassive, you effectively have a lot of disengage tools. You have the Gragas, you have the Emperor's Divide, but you also have great pick potential tools and follow-up. So long-range engagement from Double Doge on that is going in.
Yeah, he's going to have to try and force a recall.
Yeah. And then
Continue.
you have long-range pick. I'm just like, oh, they're crazy. I never know what's going to happen. The junglers are hanging around. He spotted out by a ward. Long-range pick potential, and then follow-up from Thaldron on the Twisted Advance. So Tempered Fate into Twisted Advance. And a lot of space and movement for a Chu to run rampant on that Lucian. We've seen Lucian just be such a big power pick.
Whereas the other side is basically just a Sivir comp. Easiest way to explain it, press R. Literally the entire team wants to press R and put their face in. Wow.
Well, Stonage, he missed the E-flash, so Dumbledore's auto came up. That was really nice timing, but you got to hit that combo.
It was really brilliantly played by Kira to step forward to make sure that he dodged it and then connects on the glacial path anyway.
Some say dodge. I'm happy to say
I'm going to say
miss.
dodge.
Yeah, definitely double dodged out of that one. Now Stajos in the jungle and trying to push Stomage, push him
Try it.
rather, out. He's got it. He's
Yep.
pushed him away from the camp, and now he just has to go for Raptors. So he'll go into this top lane, tank down this tower. I think we should see a tower trade, though.
Frankly, though, he shouldn't have walked into that side of the jungle because it's not his strong side of the map. Again, we have that gentleman's agreement. So where do the duo lanes go? They match up with their top laners, gave him a free wave of farm, and then shake hands. Guess what? Side towers are going down.
Yeah, especially because he knew that Stajos was just in the mid lane, so it was a bit odd that he decided to go up there. But either way, they're going to go to that dragon and have this trade on objectives, and Herald will go over to hard random. So again, the 2-for-2 towers. No real difference really in farm. Looking more at mid lane, where Kira's been quite aggressive on Naru, surprisingly, with Lissandra. And yeah, now the Herald will go down. So just get this objective trade.
It makes sense to me as well that Kira's been putting in work against Naru. The matchup itself, really, Lissandra's passive should give her the advantage early. If they're trading the same amount, having bonus spells to use from free mana cost gives you a slight edge. And we even saw the reason that Kira was going over-aggressive was just because he knew Naru didn't have mana.
I want to quickly touch on the objective trade, though, that really happened. It was the Dragon versus the Rift Herald. And I actually really favor kind of the stylistic matchup here. Like hard random, they're more the 5v5 team. They have an excellent execution. Obviously, taking early dragons is going to empower their 5v5 later on to the game with those scaling stats. Whereas on the other side, Supermassive got the Rift Herald, which can immediately translate into global gold if you utilize it to take down more towers, which I feel like they're the slightly tighter macro-based team. So we'll see if they're able to execute on that, and maybe the Rift Herald can get them an earlier advantage to compensate for their 5v5 against hard random.
Especially if they start chaining them together as well, because teams who take early Heralds and then take 3 before 20 minutes, you're generally getting like 750 gold, because it's 50 global gold in every single person, which really adds up when you get to that around 20-minute mark when it starts despawning. So we'll see if they keep up the momentum on those Heralds, as we see Dumbledore's go back into the bot lane, the one-man defense, but Stomage and Achu are coming up to defend as well, trying to utilize this Rift Herald buff, but that was actually given to Miracle rather than the jungler or anyone else. So
Yeah, and I did it backwards, so take back my entire point.
but
Rip.
still trying to push down the bottom lane, but it was stymied by Supermassive. Back into the mid lane, level 6 now by Kira and Stajos, also at level 6. So we should see that combo you were talking about earlier, Frosk. And maybe go in here. Kira's going to pop the W, looking for an ultimate as well. Stajos coming into the mid lane, looking for a cloud of damage. Look at the timing on that cleanse out from Naru, and that literally saved his life. That was almost by the frame.
But again, it goes back to that idea that Graves had to get in position before the Frozen 2 went down. It wasn't used to catch Graves up into speed. It's trying to lay it down as the collateral damage comes down.
I will say, though, it's very easy for Stajos to just come back in. Now that there's no cleanse available, Lissandra would need only hit the W realistically if Graves is close enough to put down the burst. And with Flash still available, there is still a chance he lives, but the chance is lower.
Now, Kira's still pushing up in this lane and just has such a massive mana advantage right now with the Catalyst and just pushing up into tower. So Naru are going to find it a little bit harder to farm under this one. Naru's been an interesting player this tournament because Naru in general has used to be one of the big stars of any team he was on. I think he's taken more of a backseat in this team, at least in this tournament. But from what we've seen of him, he generally just he goes in and deals a lot of damage, and the rest of the time he's doing a lot of farming.
It's about where he goes in. He'll constantly dive the back line and successfully hit it. Now, throughout the course of the group stage, he would typically trade his life for that and have a fairly even KDA. But during the semifinals, I don't believe he died once unless he dove the Nexus towers at the very end.
Well, Sejos looking for another red invade. Dumbledore has found them. The lands the Cosmic Binding Naru coming in as well. But we've got Licrid and Miracle coming up behind to provide cover
TP.
fire. There's On the Hunt used and the TP up to the top side. Kira's trying to get involved, but Miracle, knocked away by the Explosive Cask. And really, Kira was not in position there. He was slightly off-timed with the TP. And Supermassive just go down and out of their jungle.
Yeah, they just casually meander away. Honestly, that was too easy to disengage. To be fair, it is a Gragas and a Bard, so they can take a magical journey after a cask, but it also means that the engage was lacking in the first place because they did walk away.
And a lot of tools also expended to try to make that play happen there. So Kira naturally having the TP down. It's not super punishing because against Supermassive's comp, they're not running the double TP. We've talked about how double TP doesn't really work well for Azir, especially when he's forced to take that cleanse in response to the Frozen Tomb on Lissandra.
Hello.
Rip.
Kira, he knows who's there. And E over the wall. Naru's just going to slide and glide away. Stonemage was even over the wall, and Zados again was a little far away, but looking for these constant setups. And I like it from Hard Random. Maybe 5 of them don't connect, but you get that one opportunity that actually works out, and then you just take a tower from it. So constantly looking for these opportunities. And here's another one. There's the ultimate to Naru, and no cleanse this time. Stonemage into the mid lane. That's the first one coming out, and Stonemage as well. Gonna go down. Double doge. This is not where it wants to be, and takes the magical journey out.
And this is the thing that we were talking about, unlocking Licorice. When you open up lane swap this early and the side lanes go down, your support Alistar is just getting involved that much earlier, and he's making plays happen as meanwhile top.
Yeah, this is a tank fight though, so it will go on for quite a long time, and Smurf is done with this tank fight. Keeper's Verdict will knock Spaldron back to base, but from that play in the mid lane, 2 kills, goes right into a tower. Big momentum push from Hard Random.
And at this point in the game, it did feel inevitable that something had to crack. The early pressure from Hard Random finally paying off. And I was saying here we go before that happened. I was actually referring to both supports walking up the river from opposite sides. The major difference was that Steos was nearby as well, just in case things went awry, and actually picking up that second kill. But credit to Licorice, because the mechanical execution actually stopping a body slam with his pulverize as well, everything was perfect for them.
And this guy has just been a monster the entire tournament. Formerly ranked #1 in EUS, so he's got the mechanics to back it up. They took the Bard away in the denial, but he's just as potent and powerful on this Alistar.
Yeah, definitely got those accolades. And it's like you guys were saying, the supports going up to mid lane is pretty much what we expected out of this series. Licorice going into the bot lane. I mean, actually, he knows he's there, but what can he really do at this stage? The headbutt, he doesn't actually get away, and the flash and the pulverize does not connect onto Achu, uses his own flash. So it's flash for flash. Well, actually, Licorice didn't even use his. So
nope, he connected gap closed with the headbutt.
GG.
Yeah, there's occasional interactions, I will say, with the Lucian where sometimes the headbutt does not actually push him in any direction if you dash at the same time, but took his chances there. Instead of flashing, still has to blow the flash.
Yeah, wasn't the worst outcome. There wasn't real backup there from Hard Random. Miracle back into this bottom lane. In terms of CS disparities, kind of a big one opening up in the top lane with Faldron. Bottom lane, a large one with Achu as well, but it's Hard Random been looking for a lot of plays in this game where they've kind of been leaving lanes exposed and less farming and more trying to make the play and then go for the objectives. So just have to see which works out in the end, because in terms of gold, Hard Random's constant plays have resulted in a 2k gold advantage.
The big thing for me in the itemization of the top lane is the fact that the Sunfire is completed, where you have the cow. So Smurf taking, as I say it.
He's got a mana.
Yeah.
This keeps happening.
Just send high.
Just flashy. It's cool. He's just proving he can press his buttons.
Yeah.
If I had it.
Yeah, if I had mana, you would be dead. I have Empress Divide, but sending a message, Kira. This
Message
is very
received.
ballsy. It's just like walking up and it's like on a quarter health, and he's just like, this is fine.
It's also because Graves just walked through the lane, and because Naru has no flanking wards, he has to respect.
Faldron in the top lane, though. He is very overextended. He'll go into the eventual Maelstrom, and Stajos is trying to look for a way to cut him off, but he's actually trading off against Smurf now. Now Stomage going to the top lane, is both back away, and Faldron somehow survives and will carry on pushing.
But back to itemization, because the armor is completed on the Sunfire Cape and he has the completed item, with his Vengeful Maelstrom, he actually has good MR and armor coverage, whereas Poppy really only has one avenue in the Cowl for the MR coverage. So advantage to Thaldron, we saw it there in the kind of micro of the 1v1, but if this goes to a 5v5, Thaldron is more prepared right now.
Achu in this bottom lane still farming up a Storm, but there was a big mini wave that went over to Miracle, so he did even that one up. Mid lane, Rod of Ages now completed by Kira, and now pushing up. There's a Sun Disc and going to be eating out. Liquid and Stajos are also there to try and set up a play. So was Miracle. Dragon is now alive, so looks like Hard Random will be trying to get down here. Lots of pings going down. They are on the way, if you hadn't noticed.
But once again, they have no mana on Naru, so they're going to concede the Dragon to give him blue buff. And this is a consistent trend that we've seen on 3 occasions already in this game. Trying to fight and actually do even amount of HP in trades. Lissandra's favored. Easy rotation and objective taken.
Yeah, that will be the first over the Hard Random, 1-to-1 so far. Stajos again. This is really not been Stone Mage red buff this game. I think this is the 3rd one now going over.
This is actually a really poor back time from Naru. The fact that he didn't get back, that he has the blue buff now, but he's still sitting on, like Rusty said, a fairly small mana pool, means that they're not just conceding the dragon, but also conceding that side of the jungle, so losing a lot of that pink vision, as well as their red buff.
So he's literally just taking everything away from Stonewage. He just wants to get in there. All he wants is some farm.
And he gets to because they just have control over the mid lane in particular, taking that early tower. Yes, the Sun turret was there, but Naru can't do anything at this point. Finally gets the back down, so the map has reset, and Supermassive can now look to make another play.
Oh, Liquid. He's going in, but I think he used the flash midway through his combo, and Bard will pop the ultimate right onto the spell shield from Miracle, so he'll just walk it off. Sturgos is also there. This is going to be a 2 versus 3. I'm not sure if Supermassive have sight of him just yet, but he'll go up the river, so not going to result in anything just yet. Mid lane, Kira backing away, but Supermassive to me is not really being a team who has played exceptionally well from behind. When they're ahead, they have made some really good plays. They know how to pressure their advantage. We saw it against the Taipei Assassins. But when they're behind, they just don't seem to be on the same page. Like Dumbledore isn't getting plays off in lanes, and Naru is constantly having to play defensive on his sides of the map. As Kira goes in the mid lane, W lands, there's the ultimate. Another fast cleanse comes out. Kira, he just comes up big in the 1v1.
Yeah, you're right. He did get the perfect cleanse out in the same frame again, but Kira just has so much damage right now. Naru not respecting his positioning. They continue the chase.
Another flash, another W, another Graves coming in, but the ignite from Double Doge! And with 3 people there, Double Doge takes him out, evening up to 1-for-1 in that trade.
You can't take on the Bard in a fist fight because he's got Meeps to back him up. Kira does a lot of damage, and you can't cleanse the damage, which is why that happened in the first place to Naru. Overzealous with his positioning, and remember, still had Flash, still had Ultimate, decided that he could take the fight, and underestimated his opponent, underestimated Dumbledore as well.
I'm now imagining a scenario where Bard kind of walks out of a dark alley, and you're like, 1v1, I'll take you, and then suddenly just like his gang shows up.
I love the imagery, but I just saw Kira there just shaking his head, and it's just like, yeah. That does not feel good, being 1v1 by a Bard when you have 2 guys there as well. Either way, Dumbledore, you can see how strong he is as a player because he plays the game in such a different way. Like, there's no other support really in the world who is just like straight up a carry by himself. Like, you look at his champion pool, it's like Poppy, Bard, Elise, like percent damage champions, just trying to fight people. Like in the series a couple of days ago, we saw him literally just go up into the jungle, try and 1v1 the enemy jungler. He died a lot of the time, but he still tried.
He gave it a good go.
Yeah.
And it's just his style really coming out prevalent, right? The only person I would say that is close to that is probably Licrit, if you give him Bard. So very similar styles and understanding of how the champions work, and that's actually why the Alistar Sivir, in a situation where you wouldn't expect them to do too well, they have been doing well. Because the wards have been in laning phase on the flank to stop Bard from getting anything done. They're hyper aware of the capabilities of that champion.
And Sturgos again. That feels the worst, man. When you have Razor Sharp buff and you find like a blue trinket, that is actually the worst.
Ward as well.
Yeah,
Graves,
it's pretty
probably.
bad.
I'd say that's the worst.
The best thing is when you see the enemy jungler with Razor Sharp, you just place a ward in front of them. It's just like, I hate you.
It's just rude.
Yeah, it really is. And Graves is so bad at taking things. It's like one of the worst things to watch. And Double Doge is going to get a lot of damage onto him. All he wanted was the pink Licrit's here. And the Bard ultimate doesn't land, but Faldron's coming in. So is Naru. Big Emperor's Divide. There's the first kill, looking for a second. Faldron already used the W. Kira into the fight. He's going 1v5, but he's got the backup of Smurf coming out. Keeper's Verdict will even up the odds. Naru's dropping low, but a heal comes in from Achu. And Smurf, he's CC'd. There's no way he can get the kill off. 2-0. And Supermassive come big in this team fight.
Yeah, Hard Random got split apart right there, just not on the same page, not having their line of scrimmage set up. Some team members came late to the fight. Yeah, Kira got into that back line, but there was 0 follow-up at that point, so Supermassive win the team fight. It's now a question of what do they get off of it.
They're trying to go for that mid-tower push. Miracle, another great spell shield, but they should be able to get this inner or this outer turret. I'm not sure if they can go too much further. Kira did go back to base and is now going back into that mid lane. So still, the tower trade is good, and it's now 3-3 on the map, and there's a slight gold advantage to Supermassive, but mainly just evening up this game.
Yeah, and first thoughts looking at Naru's ultimate in that team fight was, what are you doing? Pushing everybody away from your own team, but it's because the flank from Hard Random was already established. The double teleports and the ability to get to the backline was actually the separating factor because they needed to disengage after a fantastic ultimate from Naru, who actually mechanically played that superb.
Also did a lot of damage. Hit 3 people with that one. And so far, Supermassive looking good in these team fights. I mean, both teams have just real good ways to execute their compositions. And a lot of these games in the International Wildcard have come down to just team fighting mechanics. And if you land all of your abilities, then you're most likely going to win the fight. So we've seen a lot of champions who are more binary like not super complex champions really would just win these team fights.
I like the fact that they have so many tools to disengage and kind of reset team fights. Yes, Hard Random have the Poppy and the Alistar, but like the Emperor's Divide to say, okay, you know, Hard Random, they got the advantage this time, but let's just quickly reset this one and try again. And so I think Azir works wonderfully, especially against Hard Random.
For sure. Naru, he's definitely got the mechanics on that one. Gone for the Rylai's and the Nash's Tooth already at just under 20 minutes. He's farming extremely well. Dragon is now spawning, Sell's taking a lot of damage from Double Doge over the wall.
Thaldron's going back though, so possibly looking for a TP.
Smurf doesn't have his, so this could be a good setup from Supermassive, but Hard Random will have to be aware of this.
I mean, his closest ward is effectively in the Pixel Brush on River, so if they're going to contest it, that'll probably be the trigger or the go point.
Well, the crab is up.
No, he's just walking.
Go Mage, yeah, he's walking over to mid lane. And
Bardock
now with
starts
Achu in
it.
the bottom lane, it doesn't seem like they actually want to go for this one. The Domadoge is going in, Smurf is on top of him, Liquid is still trying to zone away, Keeper's Verdict, the smite comes down, Stados secures it over to Hard Random, Kira now going in, W lands, there's the ultimate, the Frozen Tomb coming in, Liquid going on to Naru, trying to zone the back line, Kira now coming in, Faldrin in the back, he's tanking up this whole lineup and gets the kill over to Liquid, there's Dumbledore, he's going down, and Supermassive are just straight up split right now, that's a 2-for-1. Advantage over to Hard Random.
Major props to Smurf right there. Immediately ejected Naru out of the team fight. Azir wasn't able to set up the Sand Soldiers, get that consistent damage, and Naru had to expend so much more time getting back into position, and his team was destroyed in the meantime.
You can really see how close these teams are when it comes to the team fights. Not a lot separating them besides the mechanical execution. That's what that particular one came down to. Top laner in the Poppy actually coming up trumps.
Yeah, especially when you have two teams who are stylistically very similar, and especially when you have a lane swap and people just do a lot of farming and just trying to get those ganks off. It was fairly even for a lot of this game, so you're right. It comes down to those team fights, how they execute them. We have a brief pause here. We will update you when we know what the problem is. It was after a team fight, so maybe someone has an issue there, but should be getting back into the game very shortly. But yeah, it's just been great to see both of these teams, because both of them did incredibly well in the semifinals, incredibly well in the group stage, and a lot of these players are also very kind of long-standing. Like, you look at the likes of Dumbledore, Naru, Kira even as well from the last wildcard, even going over to the All-Star in America and did very well against some of the greats in the world.
I mean, if we talk about kind of executional long-standing or longevity of these players working together, I mean, Hard Random, I believe they've been together like 3 years as a team and as a unit in a wildcard region. That's fairly unique. On the other side, we've seen the likes of Dumbledore and Naru continue to work together on different iterations, different team names. So I think that's probably why we'll see these teams continue to be at the top. There's just so much comfort with each other. So to have that execution, to have that confidence, knowing that this guy has my back, I know exactly how to talk to him. Like, we expect Licorice to go crazy. We know Dumbledore is going to flash in, so everyone's just prepared to follow up.
I mean, that's basically Turkey in a nutshell. Like, they've had all these teams. It was like top 3 of like teams of quality and just like all swapping members, and then you get different iterations of the same players essentially. But all these players have been around for such a long time, so it's cool to see them come together again. But honestly, in this game, even though, as you mentioned, Hard Random have been together for such a long time, it doesn't feel like there's a big skill gap or big skill disparity between this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the fact that, as you mentioned, all of these players have still been in teams together in different areas, I think it's also the way that the Turkish teams play is very similar.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of style separates them. So you could put any of the top 5 players, as long as they've got a shot caller and an engage tool on that team, and you can probably make it work. They're all very mechanically gifted, whereas Hard Random, to me, they need to be this 5 members. They actually need to stay as a team like this, because 2 teleports into a team fight is a delicate thing to execute on, and very rarely do you see teams do it efficiently.
Yeah, I want to touch on the topic as well of the wildcard regions versus the other MSI teams, because wildcard in general, as we mentioned, going for more simplistic compositions and easy to execute stuff, and like as people have said before, you don't have to be Faker, you don't have to be SKT to make a play work, but when you actually put them against like the likes of these incredible teams that we've seen now coming in from the major regions, how do you think they'll actually perform, either one of these teams?
Reminder is, naturally the wildcard regions are coming at it as a disadvantage, but a lot of people view the wildcard regions as kind of like free points when you see them in the MSI or the group stage. And yes, they don't have the best track record, but there are situations. Everyone can remember very clearly Alliance versus Kaboom. And the thing is that's the number one, you know, these are the top teams coming out of the 5 power regions. It's not like they're facing a mid-tier or a low LCS or LPL or LCK team. So that's quite impressive that a wildcard region, and not just on that instance, if we think back to Pain, also being able to kind of upset people. Like, these upsets do happen more often than not.
Yeah, I think one of the big problems is the bigger regions start disrespecting them, and it's just like, these are really good teams. You can't just see them as a free win. And as you mentioned, those famous matches like the Kaboom, and you just randomly get blue shelled by one of these teams, and it's just like, yeah, you need to start paying attention to them. And especially from this tournament, I think in terms of just the quality overall, this has been one of the strongest lineup of teams and lineup of play that we've seen.
Well, you also have to understand, like, geographically, I know for a fact that the Turkish teams get to scrim EULCS teams. I know that when I participated in EULCS and EUCS, that we scrimmed Turkish teams, and they have very close proximity to that server. So it's not like it's completely isolated. They do get
#1 in the US.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're definitely still in European
very close
servers.
to home.
Cross exposure.
Very cool to see. I don't know what that says, but it looks cool. Hard
Something
random.
about Lion. That's all I've really gotten from most of these signs today.
Yeah. It's great to see the fan support as well. All this is happening in Mexico. We are currently in Sydney, Australia, covering this on the English stream. But all these fans are over in Mexico, getting hyped for this one. And yeah, currently we don't have any update on what is happening in terms of the game. We are just currently in a pause if you have just joined us. We're only in our first game of this best of 5, but should be getting back into it very shortly. But yeah, back onto the topic of this series. Both these teams basically just stomped their way through the semifinals, so it was difficult to see like a lot of their weaknesses because it just seemed like they were rolling over their opponents. And I think some of those teams also underperformed, but also a lot of the picks that have really defined these teams have gotten through, like the Graves, for example, and Stajos.
Yeah, and to me, the only one that hasn't gotten through is probably the Echo. And that's a very weird thing to say because Bard, I looked at both of these players, I was like, both Bard mains, how is he getting through it all? They probably should be respect banning it if you're not first pick. And the Graves is another perfect example of this. I am shocked to see that the Graves is on that roster, and all that we've seen so far in this first game from Steos is nothing but good things.
Yeah, I mean, he just got into the jungle and started evading immediately, and I think, like, every single red buff has gone over to him. He's been super active in the mid lane, and yeah, just really impressive.
Well, one of the primary reasons why Graves, Nidalee, and Kindred are kind of the top 3 junglers right now is just their efficiency and how quickly they move through the jungle, which opens up more space to contest and to find those invades. Not that I don't love Gragas, because I think he's incredibly powerful, especially when trying to break the mid lane siege in particular, just because a well-placed cast can completely reset anything that you've got building on the map. But especially those early levels, it's really tough to get through just because he's not going to jungle as quickly as the top 3.
Yeah, and he got a good gank off as well early. But the problem with that gank was he missed the execution.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, falling behind.
I mean, that was the interesting thing about those mid lane ganks, because you had the Graves coming in along with the Lysandra, and even though the cleanses out from Naro were literally frame perfect, like as soon as the ultimate went down, it was an instant cleanse, it didn't matter, he was still dead, because there was so much damage coming out, and you can do it once, but it's still a cleanse versus like a Lysandra ult cooldown, and then they can just rinse and repeat. So it's so difficult for Naro to get anything done, but he's been doing really well in terms of getting that farm. Either way, we're going to send it over to the analyst desk now just to cover our backs as we wait for this pause to resolve.
Thank you very much. And we do have plenty to talk about, certainly. About 21 minutes into this game. We do have a pause, of course, so thank you at home for your patience. We'll resume the game ASAP. But once again, I'm still joined by Carbon and Soul Strikes. And boys, it's been a fun 20 minutes so far with the first game. Kind of, I think, the right temperature for the series, sort of what we expected. But I'll open the floor. What have we liked? What have we disliked? What's going on in this game?
Yeah, I think it's been a pretty good game so far, pretty close from both sides. We've seen a few team fights go either way. I mean, there are a few big things. I guess we'll go through them one by one. But for me, we can start with the draft, and that is, again, I have no idea how he keeps managing to get Graves, because he's just so good at it. And again, I mean, other than that one time that he baited his whole team to die, other than that one play where he got caught in the jungle, and I think they lost 2. They lost Poppy and the Graves. Other than that, he's played a great game so far. Again, he's like 20 CS up, and as I keep saying, 20 CS in a jungle matchup means a lot more than 20 CS in the lane. He's going to get more finished against triple AP comp with Maokai, Poppy, Azir. Like, I don't know. It's too good.
Yeah, and the Graves, I believe he got every single red buff of the supermassive red buff. So very impressive. Great counter jungling from the Graves. I don't even know how he keeps getting this Grave, seriously. Like, this guy's just insane.
I feel like he plays better on it as well. Like, I feel like in general, like just generally, he plays better when he gets the Grave. I mean, I saw, I think he got like 3 smite steals in the jungle, just random camps, which is pretty important. Like, you don't think about that much maybe as a non-jungler, but like getting those camps is important. He didn't smite, but he secured the dragon with the smite as well. Like, I feel like when he gets Graves, he's just a more complete player because he's so much more comfortable.
Yeah, and we've seen, again, actually still a lot of comfort picks in this particular game. Like, Bard is in the game. That usually doesn't happen. But I think maybe mid lane's probably the next. Oh, you want to talk about Bard?
No. Oh, I mean, I can talk about Bard, yeah.
Up to you. You seem excited.
No, the Bard has been good. We've seen some good things. That pink ward bush control was quite nice. But the early roams from Dumbledoge, not successful. We touched on this before, the Licorice versus Dumbledoge matchup. I think Licorice definitely has the better of it so far. We saw Dumbledoge try to come mid a few times. He managed to come into the lane once where we saw the Gragas fail flash, which was unfortunate, of course. But Licorice, I mean, man, this guy's playing so well already. We saw the Q flash pulverize combo in the mid lane for the double kill. On Azir, and then immediately headbutts the Gragas into the Graves for the kill as well. I mean, this guy's playing really, really well. Even in that last team fight at Dragon, where Lucian and Azir were both chunked to about a quarter, but Hard Random had already blown all their flashes, all their teleports, all their ults. They didn't really have a way to get on them, and Liquid managed to zone them 1v2. He just pops ult as Ali, just walks up the ramp, stands in their jungle, and he just says, "Hit me," and they do. And that's how Hard Random won that last fight at Dragon.
Yeah, and it was just very impressive that I believe Achu did misplay that a bit. Alistair didn't have any cooldowns. You do still did that damage as long as you're still alive, but he just thought he was just going to get blown up. Really good play from Licorice, just zoning the two carries, just carrying that last fight. He did die, but doesn't really matter. The rest of this team just cleaned up.
Yeah, so far I definitely think Licorice is the better of the two supports in this game at least, which is very important moving forwards in this game because as soon as one of them loses, and this is what I thought was going to happen at the start, as soon as one of them loses on the Bard, all of a sudden that team's priority drops on the Bard, I think. And so it's like, okay, well, if we don't want to play Bard, do we ban Bard? Because I'm sure that if Hard Random win this game and Licorice gets Bard next game, they're probably going to win again, right? So this puts Supermassive in a really difficult spot in this support matchup because it's like if they lose on the Bard, then what? They have to ban it, but then they have to waste a ban on the Bard. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly what the bans were because I only had about 3 seconds in Champ Select, but presumably Supermassive don't want to have to lose a ban on one of their best champs.
Yeah, might get Graves again. That would not happen normally.
Yeah, they might get Graves again. Yeah, it's the support matchup's really good. I think the other big thing is, the mid pressure we touched on
the
that.
mid lane.
Kira is playing phenomenally. Lissandra does not beat Azir in any world. I mean, she does have the TP, which makes the matchup bearable, but she should absolutely be getting demolished, and Kira somehow is winning it.
Yeah, and I just think Nari's just not respecting the Kira and just getting punished for it.
Well, we'll have to see how it goes. No Abyssal, no clue. Maybe we'll have to find out. Let's pop ourselves back to the casting desk.
Thanks, guys. And we are now back into game. And as they were mentioning on the analyst desk, it seems like there's maybe a little disrespect in the mid lane from Naru, but it's so difficult in that matchup with Azir when you have like 5 people gunning for you at all stages in the game.
Well, he gets to be pretty disrespectful at this point in the game just because he's got his Nashor, he has the Rylai, so he is actually very strong. I typically refer to Azir as kind of a 3-item power spike champion.
Yeah, but he's missing the most important item on the list. So, like, disrespect, he's doing damage, but if they get on top of him, which Lissandra can do,
yes,
it's good night.
I completely agree, but I was going to point out that the big item that's missing right now on Licorice is the Aegis. He's got it about to come online, or at least the first part of it, but they really need that AoE MR protection.
Instead of going back into the bot lane and now clearing up this top sides of the map. There's now 22 minutes into the game, so Baron is alive. Fairly unlikely we'll see a team go for it in the near future.
Have you met these teams?
That is true. Fairly likely these two teams will go for that objective very shortly. Smurf going to be eating away to this minion.
Nice pivot.
Now, thank you. Snowmage into the top lane as well. He really wants this ward. Mid lane, Naru with the ultimate right into Dumbledoge's Tempered Fate. Great combo, but there's no real follow-up in this mid lane. It's 2v3, so Supermassive can't go in on this.
I'm not going to call it a follow-up. I'm going to call it a disengage. There was definitely 3 people there looking for something spicy, but good reset from Dumbledoge.
Small detail, but I feel like the communication wasn't actually there between mid laner and support in that situation, using 2 ultimates where one would have sufficed. Something that we rarely see from Hard Random.
Very true. You can see the wave cleared out from Sivir, instantly deleting that minion wave. And with this nice rotation to the bottom lane, they get a lot of damage onto that tower. Kira going to be jumping away, and Achu, lots of damage from the culling, using the Ether also to get him in range. So chunks Kira down to half health. That was just a really nice rotation from Hard Random, noting that Naru and Double Doge, yes, they got the disengage in the mid lane, but used those ultimates and backed away, so they had time to get the chip damage.
Yep. And big thing also is the fact that the rest of Supermassive were actually out of position, which is uncharacteristic for them. So not only the miscommunication on the teleports, but also just frankly being out-rotated like that.
Yeah, I guess Naru being forced back, Bard not having ultimates, there was things that set them up well, but considering the lack of vision both teams had, that was just a raw movement around the map. And it was a smart one at that from Hard Random. I do think that you have to remember, second Dragon, they'll be taking those turrets down stupidly quick. And that's why they did so much damage there.
Yeah, definitely extra damage. Oh, TP coming in the mid lane. That's coming out
Big
from
flank.
Hard Random. And Naru, best of luck, my friend. Slide and glide over the wall, but he's out of mana. Another great cleanse. And Kira, he's not going to predict the flash coming out from Naru. The sidesteps, the moves. He's still trying to get away. Fulgrin, he's trying to waddle his life out and goes right onto Kira. He should be able to get this Q down. Dumbledore's looking to put down some support. And E through the wall. Fulgrin is still tanking up 4 people right now as Stone Age comes into
He's
the
killing
fight.
Miracle.
Naru is basically out of mana. Tempered Fate will zone Kira back in to Fulgrin. Sal's now jumping over the wall, trying to get the damage onto Achu, but now collateral damage. It's not quite enough damage to finish him off, and 3 for 0. Supermassive, great team fight.
Saving Private Naru, that guy went through so much to escape, and what's hilarious is on the back half of that team fight, it was pretty much a 0 auto attacks. He didn't have any mana left after his great chase, and he just comes back in, auto attack, auto attack.
And you know what? There was such a small detail of the teleport from Kira. The home guards was cancelled by a single auto attack from Achu. And that forced this really awkward situation where he had to kind of throw the claw out in the wrong direction and then compensate for the E over the wall. It was kind of really awkward. And the cleanse once again from Naru was just impeccable.
There's just a hilarious image of like this golden chicken running, Ice Cube chasing, Tree like home guarding after.
That was great because Stales saw the tree coming and his immediate response was flash forwards, get away from it. It was like 2 different 1v4s. But Thaldrin at this point in the game, he is literally unkillable from most of the members of Hard Random.
I just can't believe that happened. Naru getting out there, like 4 people converging on him, and he somehow gets away.
That's a highlight reel.
That really was. That was a highlight reel play right there from Naru. But I just have so much respect for these 2 mid lanes in general, because while they haven't been the stars of their team, they do make those highlight reel plays. Like, Kira has got a long history, so has Naru, and we just saw another one today. Smurf is going to be zoning with Stajos. Blue buff is being contested, but immediately from the momentum that Supermassive got for that team fight, they're already pushing up. Kira, look at the damage coming out from Achu. Has no real way to respond, dashing in again.
He gets to be so aggressive and so far forward because he has the QSS completed, so he's not afraid of Kira right now. He knows if the Frozen Tomb comes out, he can easily get out.
Fulgrin going in. He's got the support of Naru. This time he's got the blue of Dumbledore over the wall. Tempered Fate lands onto Smurf. You can flash away, but you can't run. And that's the kill. A Rise coming out. The auto attacks. And Naru picks up the kill.
And that's the fact that Supermassive have just bullied themselves into that blue buff jungle. They've set down the triangle vision. They have control of mid and bot lane, and they caught Hard Random cheating through.
It's almost like the team with the Bard is the team currently winning the game, Frosker. And that was a phenomenal pick.
Starting to see a trend here.
No, not between these teams. There's no trends here.
Bardo has been doing very well in this tournament. Achu putting out this bot wave. There's another tower going down to Supermassive. 4 towers to 3 currently. And Supermassive over the last, say, 5 minutes, and really since that pause have stepped up the pace of this game.
And this is a terrifying position for Hard Random to be in, because when Supermassive are ahead, yes, both these teams play well from ahead, but the thing about Hard Random, it's much more kind of controlled and steady. Supermassive are so good at identifying exactly where they need to be on the map in terms of snowballing objectives. So like pedal to the metal, it's on.
Naru, what? Interesting. Kira, he's over the wall to meet him. He pops the ultimate on himself. Dumbledore's and Fulgrin are there to follow up. Flash away by Kira. He comes out. Stomach is there to meet him. Licorice comes in for the potential save. Fulgrin gets after him. Naru with the kill. Miracle now coming out. Sedros, but they need to go into full retreat. Keep his vertical use defensively. Atu, get out of here. Lyric, he goes down, and that's the second kill. 2-0 this time to Supermassive again.
I'm going to say good flash from Kira, but bad teleport to put himself in that situation. Just went way too deep. Not enough follow-up.
I'm still not sure what Naru did with his R button, but it definitely worked for them. We'll call it zoning on Graves because he couldn't get over the wall.
I'm going to say gardening on the wall.
Yeah. It was weird because some of the soldiers made it over and some didn't. And just got left behind.
But of course the Baron's on and hard random. They're looking to contest.
Oh.
Tempered Fate. Well, just time out, everyone. Faldrin back onto Sadros. He'll be going down. Smurf coming into the fight, but there's nothing to really fight anymore. He's 1v5, 1 against the world, and he can't make it happen. Another 2 kills, 2 Supermassive, and let's just restart the Baron. There's no one to contest.
And suddenly this lead has ballooned. Supermassive in full control. They take 2 team fights to the Baron, and I mean, massive lead.
Yeah, a Supermassive lead over to them in this game. Miracle clearing up the top wave as well, but really it's just damage control. And this has really gone out of control for Hard Random from such a good early game.
Should note that Hard Random do have tools in their composition to deal with a Baron siege, just because you have excellent wave clear from Sivir as well as safe wave clear from Lissandra. So there are tools there. They can stall this Baron out, but it's getting a little bit scary.
Definitely, and even a little bit wave clear from the jungle as well. Definitely can't underestimate end of the line coming out from Graves. But with Supermassive pushing up, and probably, well, I was going to say 1-through-1, and especially when you have Dumbledore, I wouldn't put it past him to be the guy in the solo lane. But Supermassive pushing up this mid lane, they get that immediate tower. Sturgeon's called out, Cosmic Binding. I think he tried to dash, but the ultimate out from Stone Age as well. They should be able to lock him down. Collateral damage and the flash, but another Cosmic Binding. Naru can't see anything, but he knows where he's going. Follow up with the E, follow up the auto attacks, and Naru with one last order will finish him off. Just caught out in his own jungle.
Yeah, once again, Seos, he has nowhere safe to be right now. The biggest counter to Graves to stop any of his kit being useful is crowd control, and Bard has that in Oodles.
I like how normally the word is spades, but we went oodles.
Oodles. I love it.
I love that word.
Oodles.
Word.
No, excellent word.
Yeah, can't deny that. Faldrin now pushing up the top lane. Oodles of damage onto this tower. Should be able to pick this up. And honestly, Supermassive are just all over this game. And when they're ahead, this is what we were saying at the start of the game. When they're ahead, they really know how to play from ahead.
Especially when Naru is ahead, but here we go.
Tempered Fate doesn't quite land. Stone Age as well onto Kira. Ultimate popped on himself. And Faldrin and Stone Age are separated from the team. Smurf with the ultimate knocks away the big damage dealer of Naru. And that's Stone Age going down. And Faldrin's trying to make a fast retreat. He managed to get out of the fray. But now the top tower siege, Achu's able to pick it up with a nice binding coming out from Dumbledore, Stadjot, and Smurf knocking against the wall. Didn't quite get the stun, and Faldrin's back into the fight. He had the TP. Another cosmic binding onto 2 people. Smurf is trying to get away. Licorice, he's also trying to retreat. But Naru, he's back into the fight. Everyone forgot that he existed. And Emperor's Divine, he still had the ultimate. Knocks 3 people into his team. And that is just the wipe. 5-1, and the team goes down.
The counter engage from Supermassive was frankly Supermassive there. The fact that Faldrin was able to escape after tanking the initial tower, backs with single-digit health, and then finds the immediate re-engage with the teleport was fight-changing there.
And maybe Hard Random could have survived, but there was a minion backing up Supermassive, taking down all of these towers. The Nexus will be falling, just padding those stats, and the first game of this best of 5 over to Supermassive.
I think it's safe to say after game number 1 that the person who has the lead, the team that has the lead early, are really the ones that can look to snowball the rest of the game out. We just sort of clashed between a Graves standard, favorite pick against a Bard favorite pick. Yep. Bard comes up better.
But the weird thing about that was Hard Random had a really good start to that game. Like, there was a lot of pressure mid lane. It seemed like Licorice was doing more than Dumbledore. Every time Dumbledore came to mid lane, he just couldn't make anything happen.
But you have to think about this. The map opened up so early. Again, it was a lane swap. We have a gentleman's agreement that either team are going to open up the side lanes. And what happens when the map opens up? Bard just becomes that more potent and powerful with his pick potential and the Tempered Fate. And like Rusty said, Bard came up in oodles.
Yeah, really did in that game. It was, I think, cosmic bindings all over the place, but really well played by both of those teams. But ultimately, to see Supermassive coming ahead, but it was a close game for sure. Anyway, we're going to send it over to the analyst desk to take a look at that game 1.
Thank you very much, and let's have a look at that first game, because Hard Random, it felt like, even in the break when we were here, they were doing a lot of work, but it just all fell apart. What happened, Calvin?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. They had a really good start, we were saying, and we were saying that actually we were worried about what Supermassive might have to do in the draft in the next game when they lose. But look, great game from Supermassive. Bard played really well in the team fights. I think one huge thing though, and I think this is maybe something that Hard Random should look at, is the Maokai ban. In LCK last night, we saw a whole bunch of Maokai bans. Today, we've seen a great Maokai in the semi-final from Turkey, we saw an amazing Maokai from Thaldren as well. I think this guy's playing really well, and I think this is something that they need to target.
Yeah, and the Maokai himself was 50 CS ahead of the Poppy, and it was just so far ahead.
With no jungle influence as well.
Yeah, and just left alone and just got too tanky.
Yeah, and we expected, honestly, like, I think the lane to sort of neutralize a little bit. Like, we talked about it, sort of a low-impact lane in general. They're just going to pump and play tanks. Like, I don't know what happened in that lane, but for Thaldren to get that far ahead is, like, there's an issue there.
I mean, he must have just outplayed him. That's the only thing that I can see. He must have just had a much better lane phase. With the camera wasn't top lane much.
Yeah.
Poppy versus Maokai, not the most exciting matchup, so I can understand. But look, yeah, he was 40 CS up in a pure 1v1. I mean, it was a lane swap, but there was no real jungle influence in the top lane. So that Maokai came up huge. I mean, every team fight I was watching, Siva was just doing no damage because she's trying to ricochet off the Maokai, but Maokai's just so tanky that he can stand so far up that the ricochet isn't really bouncing onto the back line, and she doesn't do nearly enough damage to actually kill the Mao. So huge performance from Thaldren.
Yeah, and Maokai, I believe he went Sunfire into
Frozen
Heart
yep.
straight away. So, like Carbon said, Siva does no damage. Lysandra only looking at their backline. So, Maokai just coming up huge.
Well, it certainly was a true terror there. The tree in the top lane does come up massive for Supermassive Esports. Don't go too far away, though. Game 2 is coming up right after the break.